Hello and welcome to the Gothic Color channel. This video is to introduce my notes design with information on how you can use it to make a simple summer top using 1 meter of jersey fabric. As usual with my videos, I am going to start by talking about my design and then move on to the sewing. In the description box below I have links to the different sections of the video so you can easily skip ahead to the section you are most interested in. So if you are only interested in the construction of the top, then go ahead and skip to that part. The notes design that is used in this video is one of 3 designs inspired by Art Nouveau and Art Deco. The other 2 designs are called the 10s and the 20s, referring to the early decades of the 1900s. Each of these 3 designs comes in a number of color variations and can all be used to make the top I will be showing you in this video. However, to keep the length of the video to a reasonable amount, I will just concentrate on showing you the notes design, and I will be uploading 2 more videos in the next few months, showcasing the other 2 designs and showing you other pieces of clothing that can be made with 1 meter of fabric. Links to all of the designs and color variations can be found in the description box below. The notes design is specifically inspired by the Art Nouveau whiplash motif, and makes an elegant mirrored design that is very versatile. So let me start by showing you the samplers that I received from my 2 shops. On the left are those from fashionformula.com and on the right from spoonflower.com. Starting with the light colors, we have an ivory marbled effect design on yellow. There is little difference between the samplers on this one. Then we have the design on pink. The pink on the sampler from Spoonflower is a bit warmer than that on the Fashion Formula one. Next, we have the design on a light purple. Here again, the sampler from Spoonflower is a bit warmer, more pink, than the Fashion Formula one, both lovely shades. Then we have the design on a light aqua blue. The Spoonflower sampler is a bit more saturated and warmer, greener. The Fashion Formula one is a more true cyan hue, and is the version used for the top in this video. Moving on to a different take on the design, we have the design with rainbow colors on white. It gives an iridescent effect to the design, though the colors themselves are not iridescent, and the only difference between the samplers is that the colors on the Fashion Formula one are a bit brighter. Then we have, again, a different take on the design and the background colors. Here the design has a wispy, shadowy look, set against dusky colors, which gives it an ethereal, whimsical look. First you can see the design on dusky green. The Fashion Formula sampler is a bit brighter in color, the Spoonflower one is more grey in tone. This is also the case with the next colors. Here the design on dusky pink, the design on dusky purple, and on dusky blue. Next we have the design on dark colors. Here the design has a 3-dimensional antique gold effect. Just to be clear, by gold effect I am pertaining to the color shading, it does not have metallic colors on it. Firstly, we have the design on dark green. I don't think it shows very well on screen, but the green on the Fashion Formula sampler is richer and warmer than on the Spoonflower one. Next we have the design on blue. The blue on the Fashion Formula sampler is richer and a more true blue. The Spoonflower version has a red undertone to it. Then we move on to the dark red. Again, I don't know how well this translates on screen, but the red on the Fashion Formula sampler is richer and warmer than the Spoonflower one. Finally, we have the design on black. You'd think that there won't be much difference to the black samplers, but even here the color appears richer on the Fashion Formula version. Do note, however, that the fabric printed can also affect the appearance of the colors, so it is always a good idea to get a sampler on your preferred fabric before committing to buying a whole meter. Okay, so let's talk about materials and measurements. Obviously, you will need 1 meter of your preferred fabric, but further than that, you will need to consider the width of the fabric in comparison to the measurements you want the top to be. The fabric I used is a single cotton elastane jersey, 90% cotton and 10% elastane, that is 135 centimeters, about 53 inches wide. I used 120 centimeters, 47 inches of this for the top to fit loosely on measurements of 92 centimeters or 36 inches chest, 82 centimeters or 32 inches waist, and 104 centimeters or 41 inches hips. The extra 15 centimeters, 6 inches, I used to make a hairpiece, though you could also use any spare fabric to make a matching belt. If you want the top to have a drapey effect as the top in this video has, you will need to look for a fabric that is roughly 28 to 30 centimeters, about 11 to 12 inches wider than your chest circumference. Keep also in mind your hip measurements if they are more than your chest measurements, as this top covers the hips. Regarding other materials, you will of course need matching thread. I found that for the light blue version of this design, the Gutermann color number 53 is a perfect match. You might also want some basic thread for basting. The needles that I used on my sewing machine for this fabric were jersey needles size 70. To help me with dealing with the stretchy fabric, I used a walking foot on my machine and used some stabilizing tissue on the neckline. Right, so let's move on to the construction of the top. So first things first, I washed and pressed the fabric to make sure it shrunk to its final size. Then I looked at the design to decide where I wanted it to sit on the top and found that I would need to cut off 15 centimeters off one side to make the back and front pieces match. So here are the pieces cut. The back and front are identical, and then there is an extra strip of fabric that, as you'll see, I used to make a ribbon for the hair. Here I am showing you the points I made on the fabric of where to put the sleeves. Unfortunately, the blue markings I made with chalk are not very visible on camera, so let me explain what I did. The top has a wide neck with small shoulder joints, leaving the sleeves split so they drape on the shoulders. I measured on my shoulders how far apart I wanted the shoulder joints to be, i.e. how wide I wanted the neckline to be. For me it worked at 36 centimeters, 14 inches. Also I wanted the shoulder joints to be 3 centimeters, 1/1/8 of an inch wide. The front and back pieces of fabric were 60 centimeters, 23.5 inches wide, so I took away the width of the neckline and divided by 2 to find the width I needed to measure from the edge of each sleeve to each end of the neckline. So 60 minus 36 is 24, divided by 2 is 12, so I measured 12 centimeters from the edge of each sleeve towards the center of the fabric to mark the edges of the neckline. And I also marked a 9 centimeters, as this would be where the shoulder joint would end. Then, from the top of the sleeve, I measured 20 centimeters, 8 inches down, and marked there the end of the armholes. Next, I am showing you the pinning I did on the hair ribbon and the top to get it ready for sewing. I used a stretch stitch to join the 2 pieces of fabric at the sides. I then moved on to dealing with the neckline. I wanted the neckline to be almost a slash neck with only a slight scoop, so I marked at the center of the neckline 3.5 centimeters, 1 3/8 of an inch down from the top on the front piece, and 3 centimeters, 1 1/8 inch down on the back piece, and drew a gentle curve up to the shoulder joint. I then basted and stabilized the neckline before sewing it up. I removed the stabilizing tissue and then sewed closed the shoulder joints. Here I am showing you the finished neckline and joints. You can see the gentle scoop shape of the neckline. Then I moved on to the sewing up of the ribbon. Alternatively to this ribbon, you could cut this piece of fabric in half to make 2 7.5 centimeters 3-inch strips, join them, sew them pretty much as I am showing with the ribbon, and make this way a matching belt for the top. Here I am cutting the excess fabric off the seam allowances. Once finished, I turn the ribbon the right way out. And here you can see the finished piece after top stitching. Moving back to the top, here I am removing the excess fabric from the seam allowances before basting the hem into position. As I was leaving the sleeves unfinished, when cutting the seam allowance from the sides, I made sure I cut a curve at the armpit part in order not to cut off any fabric off the sleeves. I then sewed the hemline, as you can see here, and gave the top another wash and press. So there you go, a pretty simple top, long enough to be worn as a mini dress as well if you want. The neckline can work as a wide slash neck, as you can see here, or you can wear it in a more Grecian way, creating a bit of a cowl with the sleeves draping down from the shoulders, as you can see here. You may want to iron the sleeves a bit better than I did here to stop them from curling up. And, in case you were wondering, here is the ribbon. In my next video, I will be making a simple reversible summer dress using 2 versions of my 10's design. In the meantime, do subscribe and click on notifications so you get notified of my next upload. Goodbye!